I don't know about you, but I remember walking in my neighborhood and seeing this store. Pathmark was a dominant supermarket chain located in the Northeast region. It was one of the first chains to bring in 24-hour shopping and in-store pharmacies. At its peak, it had over 140 stores throughout the Northeast region. But fast forward to today, and you can only find one. So how did a supermarket chain that pioneered so many aspects of convenient shopping go out of business? Well, here's how. Okay, it is so cold in New York right now. Oh my God, but I gotta find parking. But today we'll be talking about Pathmark. I'm gonna try to do this in under 10 minutes while also trying to find parking. So Pathmark was a spin-off from its parent company, Wakefern Food Corp. If you live in the Northeast region, you might not be familiar with them, but you might have seen this supermarket chain. And so the initial reason Pathmark was formed was because two of the biggest chains under ShopRite weren't able to get locations they wanted for expansion. By the two chains merging, ShopRite took a hit, and it took a minute for them to get back to playing status. Like many supermarket chains at the time, they focused on pricing low, which increased volume. Despite the fact that volume was high, they were still losing a lot of money in the process. To save them, their accountant called Putter & Putter had the idea of merging the company with another one named Harbor Baking Company and taking Pathmark public. And at first, mainly being concentrated in New Jersey, Pathmark didn't just win by just price. Their strategy focused on national brands, high quality and perishables, and a high level of customer service. This removed their vulnerability, and little by little, they began to expand all over Jersey. With the capital they got from going public, early to mid-70s, Pathmark made headway. The supermarkets generally focused on non-food businesses. Adding things like drugstores and gas stations showed a unique edge for them. And to reinforce their image and that they were a big, efficient, price-focused brand, they brought in electronic scanning. Credit to them for realizing that there was a more convenient way of doing transactions and managing their inventory. Later in the decade, they implemented what was called the King Short Hills prototype. One of the founders of Pathmark mentioned how this way of running a supermarket was largely influenced by how Europeans run their superstores. The style focused on gourmet food hall-like supermarkets. Modern versions of these would be like Wegmans or Whole Foods. They experimented with this format because of the shift in customer demographic. At the time, 1 in every 2 women decided to join the workforce, and well, they needed ready-made foods to help them deal with reduced hours from the kitchens due to their careers. Closing off the decade, 90 out of their 99 stores flipped to being 24 hours. Focusing on high-density areas, Pathmark's big jump was in '83 when they opened their flagship store in Manhattan. Scaling up, the superstores grew to 40 to 50,000 square feet. The dominance was omnipresent as they accounted for 87% of sales and 83% of profit for SGC. Acquisitions made them ever so robust, and nice additions like adding Barnes & Noble in 27 locations fueled their non-food strategy, making it the 10th largest chain and #1 in New York. They were peaking with overexpansion and diversifying, debt was increasing, and crisis was looming for sure. The first crack came from the Pantry Pride collapse. A supermarket chain suffering financially, they tried to use SGC as a lifeline. Pantry Pride shareholders pushed back on SGC as they thought SGC was undervaluing them and creating poor terms for the bid. Suing escalated and SGC abandoned the transaction by late 1982. This bad play led for shareholders for Pathmark & Company to also sue over mismanagement of the failed bid, as well as damaging investor confidence. And shareholders like Dark Group, led by Herbert Half, went for a hostile takeover. To block this, SGC partnered with Merrill Lynch for a $1.5 billion buyout, turning the company private for $41 a share. They sold off assets and drugstores to other corporations. The buyout tripled SGC's debt overnight, leaving no room for error. With the capex they had to play with, they started the 90s off renovating their stores. They added features like an in-house bakery, video rentals, and even a diaper changing station. They had a plan for improving sales and modernizing all their stores, even adding a daily chef component for urban demand and leading in pharmacy chains in 1995. Executives kept getting swapped out or cut off, and competition kept getting harder. Sales got worse year by year, and by the end of the decade, they needed to be acquired. To make matters worse, FTC kept blocking Pathmark from being acquired, assuming their merger would eliminate competition. With AMP taking the wheel, they tried to implement a Save-A-Center format with Pathmark, but couldn't really land it. Initially aimed at discounters affected by the '08 crisis, but it ended up backfiring because of overexpansion. They got too greedy, and their acquisition debt compounded, leading to the bankruptcy in 2010. Liquidating the majority of their assets, Pathmark got sold to rivals by the end of 2015. And well, nowadays, the only Pathmark you'll find is somewhere in Brooklyn. Pathmark had a lot of things out of their control. Upper level management, definitely, and they're running with bad luck as they try to merge with other companies. But if it's anything we could take away from this, it's that number one, debt can make or break you. They needed debt to save their company, but by accumulating debt, they entered a black hole that was impossible to get out of. It was the debt that made Pathmark go from being revered to being tossed around like a football. Number two, adapt as much as you can. A company that innovated so much in the supermarket space just couldn't keep up with the times. Again, this wasn't easy to do in their case because of the debt. But with the little capital they had, they could have been a bit more cautious on how to go about fixing the chain. I do feel like after the buyout, they really tried to turn things around, but their ambition wasn't appealing to FTC or the investors. We never really got to see Pathmark truly innovate sufficiently. The latter years of Pathmark didn't have no one at the forefront prioritizing this, and they lost whatever edge kept them afloat. I can't lie, I don't think I'm going to be able to find parking right now. Someone has been stalling traffic for about 10 minutes now. But if you know about Pathmark, let me know your thoughts on what you think happened to Pathmark.